Welcome to Betrayal Narratives. Today's story isn't just about divorce, it's about a rigged game. A judge who mistook ego for justice, and a Southside man who decided if the rules were crooked, he'd melt the rulebook into pennies and drop them on his ex-wife's marble floor. This is Kurt D'Angelo's story, and it starts where all real stories begin, in the dark. With the smell of cheap beer and the sound of fists on drywall. Kurt was forged in a Chicago bungalow where the heat never worked and the old man swung belts like they were baseball bats. By 12, he could hotwire a Buick. By 15, he was boosting them for cash. By 20, he owned 3 tax-foreclosed houses paid for in wrinkled hundreds he kept in a shoebox because banks were just another kind of cage. He met Lily at a club with a sticky floor and a DJ who only knew Bon Jovi. She smelled like vanilla extract and Escape. Small-town Seymour pretty with big city hunger. Said she wanted a porch and babies. Said she wanted safety, but what she really wanted was scenery she could change whenever the backdrop of her life got boring. They married fast, had Regina faster. Named her after Lily's mother, who died believing marriage was a covenant and cancer was just another test. Kurt bought a squat little house in Oak Forest, planned to flip it. But Lily saw granite countertops in her dreams, and suddenly the house became a renovation that never ended. Every room, a stage set, every curtain, a lie. Kurt paid cash for each upgrade, watched the price of peace rise like a tide that would eventually drown him. Years slid by on contractor invoices and birthday parties that cost more than his first car. Lily traded backyard barbecues for brunch at places with one-word names and got a job at a downtown firm where the coffee is imported and the morals are domestic paralegal title lawyer ambitions' eyes. Always scanning for the next rung, even if it was wearing a wedding ring that was NT hers. Kurt stayed on the South Side, fixed furnaces, and collected rent. Wore the same leather jacket since juvie, and told himself, love is compromise even when compromise starts to smell like another man's cologne. Regina learned to walk between two worlds. Mom's marble foyer and Dad's tool-drenched truck seat, loved them both. But only felt safe in the creak of the Oak Forest stairs where the walls didn't echo with forced laughter. Lily started coming home late, said the firm was grinding, said the partners needed her, said the Lexus in the driveway was just a perk. But perk stan T leave hickeys on collarbones, and perk stan T text after midnight with emojis that aren't T in a husband's vocabulary. Kurt noticed the signs the way a wolf notices a limp in the herd. Subtle, instinctive, fatal. One night he followed her phone to a club where the bass hits like a second heartbeat. Watched her grind on a junior associate whose shoes cost more than Kurt's monthly mortgage. Recorded every kiss, every giggle, every promise of a nightcap that wasn't coming home with her. He didn't confront her. He went home, packed Regina's room in the time it takes to microwave popcorn, told his daughter they were going back to the house that never needed to prove anything, drove off while Lily was still tangled in silk sheets that weren't hers. The divorce filing was a formality. The war that followed was opera. Lily hired her firm's best shark, a man who bills by the breath and smells blood like cologne. Kurt represented himself because he trusts his own voice more than any silk-tied mouthpiece, who's never fixed a busted pipe at 3 a.m. The judge, a man who vacations in the same Hamptons enclave as Lily's new counsel, called the proceedings standard, set support at $6,500 a month, gave Lily the mansion Kurt never wanted, gave Lily the child support, gave Lily the dignity Kurt had earned coin by coin, and gave Kurt 6 minutes to object before threatening contempt. Kurt smiled, the same smile he wore when cops found the stolen Buick, and he still walked away clean. Said, "Your Honor, I'll pay every cent," and walked out knowing pennies can buy more than groceries, they can buy spectacle. 30 days later, an armored truck rumbled through Wilmette like a tank in a jewelry store. Guards in gloves hauling canvas sacks up Lily's cobblestone walk while neighbors filmed vertical videos for horizontal drama. $2,000 in pennies, nickels, dimes. A metallic river poured across her Italian marble, a copper avalanche that cracked tile, and scratched finish and sang like a slot machine vomiting its last jackpot. Lily screamed, her lawyer filmed, the neighbors clapped. Kurt watched from across the street, sipping gas station coffee, waving like a king on a float. By sunset, the video was viral. By sunrise, Lily had filed for sanctions. By lunch, Kurt was in front of the same judge who now looked like a man chewing tacks. The judge said the payment was legal but disrespectful, said court is a temple, said Kurt had desecrated it, said 6 months in cook. County would teach him reverence, said apology could buy freedom, said groveling could cut the sentence in half. Kurt stood 6'4", 250, voice calm as winter asphalt. Said I'd rather bunk with murderers than bow to a man who wears another man's morality. And the gavel fell like a guillotine on the last shred of patience. Jail didn't scare Kurt. It welcomed him like a high school reunion where everyone's scars match. He bunked with ghosts from juvie, men who called him Tex back when revenge was a fist and not a ledger. He kept his head down and his ears open, learned which guards took bribes, which inmates traded favors like baseball cards, which cameras had blind spots shaped like opportunity. When 2 guards and 6 inmates jumped him in the video room, left him bleeding and strapped to an infirmary cot, he didn't cry victim. He coded a message in the language he and his brother Ken invented as kids to dodge their father's drunken radar. Passed it through a nurse who hated bad cops more than broken rules, and set a clock ticking that no one could hear yet. Names were gathered, addresses harvested. Wives and girlfriends mapped like territory in a war Kurt didn't start but would finish with fireworks. On the outside, his brother Ken, all grown up in Silicon Slick, hacked calendars and GPS logs, wild gummy. The last loyal dog from the old neighborhood. Hired cleaners who moonlight as installers of tiny eyes and ears in penthouses and judicial chambers alike. 1 week later, a downtown law firm's off-site server fried like bacon, taking with it billable hours, client files, and the anonymity of every partner who ever billed Lily's new Lexus. Simultaneously, 3 girlfriends received anonymous envelopes containing photos their boyfriends swore were deleted. 2 wives found motel receipts printed on courthouse letterhead. And 1 judge's wife fielded a call from a burner phone playing audio of her husband discussing precedent while panting over a paralegal's briefs. The ripple became a wave, the wave became a flood, and Kurt sat in his cell smiling like a man who knows the cost of every brick in the house he's about to repossess. Inside, respect grew like mold in damp concrete. Inmates called him Tex, with a tone reserved for men who can get you stabbed or saved depending on the day of the week. Guards who once flexed now looked away. The one who beat him was fired after videos showed Kurt swallowing punch after punch without raising a hand. A silent crucifixion that made even the warden nauseous. Lily visited once, tried to scream through the plexiglass, said the bank was foreclosing, said her lovers had vanished, said Regina wasn't speaking to her, said the world had teeth and they were all pointed at her. Kurt listened, then picked up the phone and said, "You burned the bridge, now swim the river," and walked away lighter than he'd felt in years. Regina came next, all teenage defiance and legal emancipation papers folded like a love letter. Said she'd moved back to Oak Forest, said Dr. Hodges, now revealed as Freddie from the old block, had helped her decorate. Said the house smelled like cinnamon and sawdust again. Said she was graduating early and the trust was hers and she'd wait for him on the porch with lemonade and a steak. The steak this size of forgiveness. Kurt signed anything she put in front of him without reading. Some contracts aren't about clauses. They're about covenant. Months passed like cigarette smoke. The judge who added 2 extra months was photographed at a charity gala with a woman who wasn't his wife. The photo posted by an account named Don't Mess with Texas 69. The caption reading, "Justice is blind, but the internet isn't." The judge's wife filed for divorce within a week. The Bar Association opened an ethics probe. And the same gavel that once fell like thunder now sounded like a starter pistol for every lawyer in Chicago to race away from the blast radius. Lily returned one final time, no mascara left to run, said she was moving to Florida to live with parents who could barely look her in the eye. Said she'd traded love for lifestyle and the lifestyle had evaporated. Said she finally understood that status is a rental and Kurt had owned the deed to something real all along. Kurt didn't gloat. He slid a rental key across the table, said 6 months free in a South Side duplex, said she could start over where the sidewalks don't judge, said take it or leave it, but either way, Regina is mine in every way that matters now. Lily took the key, left her wedding rings on the table like a surrender flag, and walked out smaller than he'd ever seen her. A woman shrinking into the shadow of the girl she used to be. Release day arrived with the smell of cut grass and bus exhaust. Kurt walked out wearing the same jeans he wore in, carrying a manila envelope holding every photo, every receipt. Every transcript of a war he'd fought with paper cuts instead of bullets. Gina waited at the gate, taller, brighter, wearing his leather jacket like inheritance. Freddie beside her with lemonade in a Yeti and a porch swing waiting in a truck bed. They drove to Oak Forest while the GPS recalculated their lives. Past the mansion now bank-owned and listing like a tombstone. Past the courthouse where reporters still camped for comment. Past the club with the sticky floor now shuttered and silent. At the house, the swing creaked exactly like memory. The grill was already heating. And neighbors brought ribs and potato salad and stories about how the South Side doesn't forget its own. Kurt stood on the porch, feet on the same boards he'd nailed 2 decades earlier, and felt the mortgage of anger finally paid in full. Later, after the sky turned the color of bruised peaches, he asked Freddie if she'd sit with him a while. Said he wasn't promising tomorrow because he'd learned tomorrow makes no vows. But said tonight he could offer silence that didn't feel like hiding and laughter, that didn't feel like debt. She slipped off her rings, placed them in his palm, said she'd been waiting 20 years for a man who understood that home isn't where you sleep, it's where you return. Kurt closed his fist around the metal, felt the weight of every penny he'd ever dropped, and knew the debt was finally settled. Somewhere far away, Lily unpacked boxes in a Florida condo that smelled like mildew and regret. Somewhere, the judge signed divorce papers with a tremor he couldn't blame on caffeine. Somewhere, the internet kept refreshing a video of copper coins cascading like a waterfall over a life that had once seemed untouchable. But on this porch, with this swing, beneath this sky, Kurt D'Angelo sipped lemonade that tasted like resurrection and listened to his daughter laugh in the kitchen while the woman he should have noticed 20 years ago hummed a John Cougar song about small towns and big chances. The camera pulls back, the porch light flickers once and holds steady. And the narrator whispers the only epilogue that matters. Sometimes the best revenge isn't making them pay, it's making them irrelevant.